everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tuber. Welcome back if this is your 8th DC Stargirl Season 2 episode review. Hope you're all doing well. As you can tell from my face, I done another Joe fuck up, and I just realized my camera is also off focus. Great. Great. This episode review is already getting on really well. There we go. Anyway, as predicted, there was another Joe mistake. It seems like every week on What's on the Tube, there's always like this. There's always that one mistake I made to either delay me from getting a little bit more rest time or putting a little bit more work into me, which I don't mind. I'm just saying, like, why can't things go more perfectly? I had a little bit of a camera issue, so I kept having to restart OBS, which is how I record my episodes. And eventually, I finally fixed the issue, but I forgot to press the record button. So I think I got up to almost the halfway mark of the episode recap. And then I realized, because my computer turned, I was like, wait, my computer never turns up if it's recording. And I'm just like, frickin' hell. So close. But I don't mind. I don't mind talking about it again, because this week on Stargirl, we got a little bit serious for a moment. We delve into more of the psyches of our fellow characters, mostly Rick and Beth this week. But their fears and such, and just how much they're dealing with right now in their heads, even given the whole, like, Eclipso, end of the world sort of thing. Like, it's a lot for them to handle, but we take a step back from, like, Eclipso's evolved, but he's just very much, just feeding on what's already there and just elevating it to, like, up the point where it's like, you got to deal with this now, man. You got to deal with this now. And I think, well, last week's episode was, like, I still think the best episode of the series / the best episode of the season thus far. I felt like this was a little bit of a step down, a little bit seeking, just a little bit. I think it was just hard, because the only complaint I'll have is, and this is not a spoiler because everyone knows about this from the trailers, they made this thing again in season 1 where they did a Yolanda episode, and then the next episode they had a Rick and Beth episode. Like, Rick was mostly the focus, but Beth was also there. I feel like this time around they kind of 50-50'd it out. Like, this was definitely equal parts Rick's story and equal parts Beth's story, so I will give them that, but at the same time, I really would have preferred for, like, Rick to get his own taste, and then Beth. That would have been a stronger way to do it, but I can probably guess because of next week's episode, and then, how they're going to proceed forward with the finale. I don't think there was going to be time to, like, properly do it, at the right pace of the story before it just starts to escalate more. So, I completely understand that, but at the same time, I was just like, damn. I was just really hoping for, them to get their own times to shine. But this episode still was, oh god, this thing was annoying me for weeks. Like, every time I would, like, scratch myself over here, it's like, this was the thing, and I got rid of it. Fuck off. Anyway, let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Stargirl. We begin at the Tyler household in the middle of nowhere, where the teacher that kept telling Rick, it wasn't you couldn't have done this, you were not that smart of a student, comes by over to apologize yet again about her accusations about her not believing Rick. Rick's like, fine, get over it. That sort of line. But she also brought over a peace offering. Sadly, not food, but like a whole damn binder. Well, not binder, like a folder full of college prep stuff. Because I believe he is a junior. He's going to be a senior. I'm not sure, but he needs to get prep for this, college stuff. Like, it's going to come back soon enough. And she said, like, you proved me wrong. Hopefully, college would be a good place for you to start thinking about something beyond being this person everyone perceives you're going to be. Which ironically, his uncle shows up behind him, looks at her, is like, get the hell out of here. Like, you're on my private property, get out. And meanwhile, for Rick, he just looks, just looks around, looks at him and is like, no, this is college papers, don't worry about it. And his uncle's like, you ain't gonna go to college. You're gonna probably be in jail before you get to college. And he throws away the papers onto the ground, which I'm like, damn. That's your own nephew. That's your own family. You even got no faith in him. Jesus. Rick goes around to pick up the papers, but then he goes out to feed Grundy during Grundy's feeding hour. This time, a bunch of apples, which honestly makes sense considering the fact I'm pretty sure Rick is getting broke from all the freaking food he's probably having to give Grundy. Which is another thing. Like, after watching that opening scene alone, how does Rick get his money? Like, I don't remember him getting a side job or him mentioning it as a job like Yolanda did before last week happened. I'm definitely certain his uncle's not giving any sort of money besides what's, absolutely necessary for him. And I just don't know where this money's coming from. I really don't. But regardless of what the case might be, as soon as he gets to the meeting spot for Grundy, he just sort of explodes and yells, getting all mad that like the world keeps throwing him bad things, and even though he keeps doing good things in response, whether that is being part of the JSA, whether that is helping his friends, whether that is feeding Grundy, or trying to do better in school, like he's doing all these great things, but he hasn't really gotten any sort of like real well deserved like good things coming his way, that sort of thing. Which honestly, look, you do what you can do in life, and then whatever comes your way at the right time. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. Grundy shows up, starts eating his apples. CG wise, it's great to see Grundy again. Like the shadow tease in the first 2 episodes, were like, we get it. You could show Grundy, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like a waste of time because, like, money wise, do we really need Grundy? We know it's Grundy. We don't need to see him, fully, if that makes sense. So Rick sits down while Grundy's eating, and he kind of tells him a little story of how when he was younger, a few years ago, his uncle had adopted a shelter dog that was part of, animal fights before it got there. And initially it was thought that, like, oh, we're just going to give him a new life, just, be around, that sort of thing. But, however, what ended up happening was the uncle only had intentions to have him become back into a fight dog. But Rick felt bad that he was doing that. Like, he basically traded one life for the same life again. So Rick decided to take matters in his own hand. Tells his uncle that the dog ran away, but however, the dog is really actually over at another town, raised by an actually healthy family who wants to love him, and it went so well that a year later Rick returned and he saw the dog again. It was like a complete 180, a complete do-over, and it sounds sweet. It really did, and I felt like, damn, Rick has always been a good person. It's just like that he was shrouded by this broodiness back in season 1 that made him so hard to be a likable person. I'm gonna also say we get to? Yeah, no, oh yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. But the whole point of that story was just for Rick to tell Grundy that, look, you can't be blamed for what you are because of the way you were raised and brought up, but if the right person shows you how things could really be, maybe that would be enough to change you. And there is a good sign that these two might eventually become friends because Grundy decides to give him one of his apples. So that was sweet of him. Sorry if I'm scratching my eye so much. It's been the light source. I gotta get that fixed. I gotta ask George how to fix that. Anyway, going onwards, we head over back to the Whitmore Dugan residence where Courtney wants to immediately head out and go talk to Yolanda, see if she can at least get the friendship back in order, not even focus on the Wildcat stuff. But everyone's got their own differing opinions on how he should handle the situation. Pat's more along the lines, let her cool down, let her think about things, don't rush her to do a decision because she's still thinking about everything. Don't rush her, she'll come to you when the time is right. But Mike's like, nah, just let's get Eclipso, take him down, and then, everything should be fine. I wish all that was in life, Mike. I wish that was all how life worked. We beat up the big guy, and then everything turns back to normal. I really wish that would work. Anyway, but however, Court doesn't have to go out for long since she gets a knock at the door, and she's opening up. It's the same duffel bag that Yolanda got from season 1 with the Wildcat suit, and it has the Wildcat suit in there, and so Yolanda has officially renounced herself as Wildcat. So she's moving forward from that, and that leaves Courtney in all states of emotion, since not only was Yolanda a teammate to her, but she was also one of her best friends, and she's gone. So she's not gone in like the sense like she's dead, but she's like more like she's gone, like she's probably never going to join the team again. But anyway, I believe we're going to go into next. Yeah, so we head to the basement. Courtney's putting the suit back, and she checks in on the staff, which she also nicknames Cosmo, which is kind of a cute name. It really is. Now we need to get her a Wanda, and then we're all full circle here. The staff is showing some signs of recovery, not 100% though, but it is slow going. But the staff is acknowledging Courtney and is listening to what she has to say about it. So the staff is happy, at least, if that makes sense. Rick is heading out of the woods to head back home, presumably, but he catches a radio broadcast that the hunters of the local wildlife area are about to join up to find this mysterious bear that keeps roaming around the forest, which obviously Rick knows it's Grundy, But at the same time, he sees the amount of people that showed up in droves for him, so he gets worried, decides to head back out to the forest to find Grundy and warn him. Meanwhile, back at the pit stop. Also, yeah, I forgot to mention there was a scene where Beth was still working on the Dr. Midnight goggles, and she gets back into touch with Dr. Midnighter, which once again, he's just confused as hell. Who the hell are you? Where am I? That's sort of the logic. But eventually he snaps back and just lets her know, I believe, does he warn her about things coming? I don't entirely remember, but he does tell her that, I'm in the Shadowland, but he cuts out before he finishes the statement, which we just assume is a loss in transmission. But however, for us, we see on the computer screen Calypso mean that he's made Beth his next target to take over. So back at the pit stop, Pat's trying to work on Stripe, trying to get that suit fixed up again. Courtney shows up, asking him we need to start focusing our efforts to try to help the staff, try to get it back to normal, because it's literally the only tool we have right now to take down Calypso. As well, it's a friend, it's an ally to us. And the Courtney tells Pat the nickname she gave him, and the staff, and Pat's just again, another nickname. We had enough by this point. It's starting to get annoying. But before they're able to brainstorm a plan to how do we even get the staff back to normal, they're interrupted sadly by Rick, who calls into Pat saying that he needs help. Solomon needs help, and he needs to get all hands on deck on this one. So I think it was around the time I started ending the thing. Did I? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We kind of diverged to two main points here. I'm going to drink one more big gulp of my tea and then power through it, because my kettle's so far away. Let's go for Beth. Beth is kind of let's go with Beth. I feel like the Rick stuff, both sides have equal amount of an impact. It's just the way they presented it, and also I can't tell if my hair is great or not. I can't tell. Beth's parents shows up for lunch, which is a surprise to Beth since they never show up for lunch. What are you guys doing here? It turns out they had some free schedule, a freedom in their schedule, so they have to finally have that family talk with Beth about the divorce. And it's starting out sweet and innocent, they were both young adults, happy in love, had a career path in mind, was starting to achieve those dreams, and then they had Beth. And even though they still wanted to keep going with their dreams and, keep the stability of life as well as take care of a little baby, their love for each other, while it was very strong at the time they started, it kind of faded away because neither of them were putting much effort into it because they were just so damn busy all the time. Which sucked, but the way that they phrased it to Beth, at least in this sort of situation, they said more along the lines you are the reason basically we're getting divorced. You're the one why we haven't been able to really feel for each other lately or fall back in love with each other. They just haven't. And just Beth taking this in and just, reacting to it, and then also her seeing her plate of food and just seeing a maggot crawl out of it was enough for her to break and I need to get out of here. This is enough. I'm gonna start crying. I'm not staying here anymore. She heads over to Courtney's house for some, comfort, but the entire house is mysteriously empty, except for that little kid that is in fact Calypso, and also that Yolanda saw before all the shit happened last week. They're having a little bit of a debate, and Calypso was kind of getting a little bit too serious in our realm, and just the general Stokes what's really going on, because the way he's describing about Beth and how she eventually joined the team, how she even got the goggles, more in the lines oh, you stole the goggles, just like your people. And I'm just whoa. I thought he meant heroes, but a little bit later down the line, he's eventually gonna be oh god. So he's tormenting Beth around the house, teasing her, making her really rethink everything she's done with her life since she's kind of been discovering about Courtney and the JSA. Which I'm damn, this guy is very not giving a fuck vibe. That's really the case. Sorry about my language. That's really the vibe he's getting off right now. I think even at one point they're at Courtney's bedroom while I think he just gets a hold of the goggles somehow, and Bev's just look, give me the goggles. And he kind of makes a fair point. You weren't chosen. the staff picked Courtney. Courtney was actually then worthy to even hold the staff, so he picked Yolanda, which blessed her as the official Wildcat successor. And Rick's parents made him our man. So, what about you? You weren't picked. You were forced to be put on the team because you knew about these things. You were never meant to be a JSA member. I forgot whether or not this would be. I think he did bring up the color thing that, like, I don't remember how that line went, but I know he mentioned something about Beth's color, and Beth called him a racist, which I'm like, okay, yeah. Eclipso definitely is more like a, hey, here's the reality of things. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not just an evil person just like sprouting evilness. I'm actually a real boy. I'm real. Which actually kind of was a little concerning for me, but I think it worked in the effectiveness of trying to get into Beth's psyche, because Beth's not really one, she's an emotional person, but she's very smart, so she knows what's up. The torment keeps going on. Courtney keeps trying to chase the little boy, and and Eclipso's still trying to like psych her out of like being a superhero. Eventually, Beth gets a little bit of cojones, a little bit, and Eclipso, like the real Eclipso, actually appeals, which I'm like, still solid makeup, very solid. It's a little bit of a downgrade from last time, which I'm like, it could be the lighting, it could just be me not being able to see everything, but it's a little bit down. But, the effectiveness is still there. He's still, like, shocking her, like, look, you're not a hero. You are just pretending to be brave. You're just not. And thankfully, Beth smartly puts back on the goggles and ends Eclipso's vision, which turns out the entire time it was a vision. Nothing was really there. It was just Eclipso playing a game on her, which thankfully didn't work out so well for him. Dr. Midnighter comes back in and communicates that, like, I've been here the whole time. I was watching the whole thing. You were actually something yourself to actually get out of it. And officially, he acknowledges her again as the new Dr. Midnighter, which is another sign of, like, Beth is something. She is Dr. Midnight. She has now been officially acknowledged by the original one. They're like, yeah, you are part of me. You're part of my legacy, which I'm like, pretty cool. Good for you. Beth's parents truly come in. It's not a joke. It's not like an Eclipso vision. But they take things a little bit differently. They don't touch upon the divorce. They do touch upon what Beth's feeling right now, which is the sense of, like, sense of belongingism and, dealing with her race and how that influence, like, where she wants to do in life. Even though we know what the context of it is, they don't know. But, her mom brings up a story, like, around the time she started working at Blue Valley. She was taking over for a leaving, I forgot the title name she used, but she was taking over for someone pretty high up in the business. The original person was, like, very well loved. Everyone loved him. But by the time Beth's mom came in, everyone was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. She's new. She's kind of a certain way. Because, like, it's still taking time for, like, everyone to fully accept this is how things are. But I'm not surprised back then they were still thinking about that, especially in a small town. Like, it's kind of a little bit hard sometimes to prune out all the bad apples. But definitely it's a good sign to, like, yeah, no matter what happens, there's still going to be a family still being there together and, actually talking about their problems and, like, trying to help each other out, which I'm like, this was very nice. But what's not very nice is what's going on with Rick over there. Rick's hunting the woods trying to find Solomon. He eventually runs into two hunters who claim they fought Solomon, but they didn't know what he was. But Solomon hid one of them, and that's why they're retreating. So Rick decides to double book it to where Solomon is. Courtney and Pat just get to the general area and start questioning, how does Solomon Grundy how is he still even here? Sorry about that, sounded fake. My tone just went away for a second. Why was Rick feeding him? And, they have all these questions. But Pat's like, let's just focus on helping Rick. Let's get Solomon under control. Then we'll talk about all this thing when we're done. Eventually, there's also mention that, like, there was a little girl that was taken away from a club not that long ago. So they have a fear that Solomon has her. Rick starts fearing the worst. And he heads over to the lake where he finds Solomon near the lake. With his hands very bloodied up, and he just sees a little girl in the ravine, just looking all dead as hell. And I'm just thinking to myself, they did not just kill a kid off again. Like, stop, CW. I think it killed a kid earlier this year, or at some point. I reviewed a show, they talked about it, but I'm like, damn, that's kind of a little brutal. Solomon still had the blood in his hand, but what's weirdly enough is that there's no blood on the person, so that was a little concerning. But Solomon supposedly runs away. Rick decides to follow suit. Thankfully, Courtney and Pat weren't that far away, so they check in on the kid. And it turns out the kid wasn't even a kid. It was an illusion from Eclipso. So I'm assuming Solomon was also an illusion too, that Rick is just seeing something else. So they have to hightail it. They have to run after him, which they do. Coincidentally, Rick finds Solomon near his house, very much close to his house. The two start fighting each other. Rick's getting the upper hand with his hourglass active. Eventually pulverizing the dude, but then Courtney and Pat show up, tries to knock him out, like, stop, you don't know what you're doing. Rick's not even listening. Courtney throws a star blast at his chest, and it wakes him up, and it turns out, yes, it wasn't Grundy the whole time. It was actually his uncle, who is now really beaten up, bleeding out like hell. Pat goes over to him, and he's still alive, thankfully, but he's in really bad shape. He really is. So, to the point where we cut back, Rick's in handcuffs. His uncle's in the ambulance. Courtney and Pat are just watching, just like in shock. Like this is what Eclipso did. And also, I forgot to mention, this was actually a pretty key detail I would have actually forgotten to say for some reason. Rick is looking at the hourglass. I'm thinking to myself, he caused his pain. He did this to his own flesh and blood. And in a moment of like stupidity, he throws the hourglass on the floor, breaking it. I'm like, dude, that is like probably the most complicated device on the planet in your Earth, as well as you're basically giving up hour-long superpowers. Like, at least give it back to Courtney. You just broke a freaking artifact. Like, I don't even know how you're gonna fix it. Like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to fix it. There's still 4 more seasons of the show, I'm assuming. So, what are you doing, my dude? What are you doing? So the police take away Rick. The ambulance takes his uncle to the hospital. And this is a sign of like just feeling bad for the situation. Solomon saw the whole thing, and he just looked at the distance, and he just saw his best friend, his only friend, get taken away by the cops. And you look at his face, and I'm just like, I feel bad for Solomon. Solomon finally had a friend, and he's probably gonna be thrown in jail. I feel so bad right now. Anyway, continuing onwards, I think the last scene we got was, Barbara and Mike are at the house, waiting for them to come, waiting for Pat and Courtney to come home as they're at the station right now, filling out questionnaires, and also as well as trying to convince them to try to get Rick out of this somehow so he doesn't spend a night in jail. But all Barbara and Mike can do right now is just to be there for them when they come back home. That's all they can do right now. The two share a hug, which I'm like, oh, they're becoming a family. Well, they already are a family. Like, they're really like solidifying this bond even more so. But however, outside, sadly, ice powers are coming through as the ice is starting to freeze though, and I'm just like, oh no, oh boy, we're in for a treat next week, as that's where this week's episode of Stargirl takes an end. But for me, I think this was another solid episode. I definitely would have liked it for Beth and Rick to get split up in terms of like give them more time to breathe, but it is what it is with the way they have to pace out the story with this season. I love the fact we finally got Solomon again, and the fact that they had a smart way of like, we're getting Rick and Solomon again fighting each other, but we're still like really developing them more as like this is something more of a complex relationship that we're not really thinking of. Eclipso is really not wasting time. I'm like, thank God this season is only like 13 episodes. Like, if this season was like 22 episodes, I'm just like, oh boy, like, I would be groaning all the time. I'm like, damn, we're just picking up steam. Like, I'm snapping. And like, Eclipso's not wasting time. He broke up a Rick. He broke up a Yolanda. It's just Courtney and Beth left. So what else does he have in his sleeve to get rid of both of them? So we'll hopefully find out soon enough. But even though this was kind of like not as high as last week, this was definitely another solid one, and definitely showcased that like these people, like, they have a lot to still fight for. Like, even if you're a superhero, you still have your own issues to deal with and your own demons to conquer. So I think that was the lesson this episode threw at us, and definitely put the JSA in a very vast disarray, which will hopefully make next week's episode as a very nice comparison. But I will talk more about that later. But for now, for this episode, I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Stargirl? Let me know. I think that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's on the Tube from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the second season of DC Stargirl. Please, if you want to know what else we're doing on What's on the Tube besides our Stargirl reviews, we're currently doing Doom Patrol Season 3 episode reviews each and every Friday mornings after a brand new episode on Thursdays on HBO Max. We're also doing The Rookie Season 4 episode reviews each and every Monday mornings after a brand new episode on Sunday nights on ABC or on Hulu the next day. We are also doing Heels episode reviews each and every Tuesday mornings after a brand new episode on Sunday nights on Stars. And also next week we're about to start up our Nancy Drew Season 3 episode reviews, which will be starting up next week Saturday. So we got 5 review series to do, which I'm like, great. Anyway, but if you don't care about Stargirl, you're in luck. We will be back next week with another episode review and some even more good news. CW has finally confirmed the finale date for Stargirl, which I was like a little bit confused, like because Supergirl is wrapping up this year too. In terms of like finale wise, like this is the last season, so they were gonna do a big 2-hour finale for Supergirl to like leave the network forever. And also I was thinking, wait, so because I saw a poster where it's like, oh, Supergirl finale on the 2nd, then I'm like, okay, so that Stargirl is gonna get pushed back a week just for their finale. So no, so Stargirl is gonna run uninterrupted the whole season. So we're going for a straight run, so no delays, which I'm like, thank God. Stargirl Season 2 finale will be airing on November 2nd on the CW. So the plan is, tentatively for now, is that we're going to go for a straight run as well throughout the entire October and the beginning of November. And then after we're done with Stargirl, of course, obviously we'll do a Season 2 review, get into a Season 3 predictions, and then come back some point next year with Season 3. That's the whole goal. So we're still running Stargirl, I believe, mostly uninterrupted till the Thanksgiving holiday season. So I'm still in your eardrums for at least another, 7 weeks now? So I'm like, cool. And those 7 weeks better not fly by so fast. My birthday's in between some of them, so I'm like, they better not go that fast. I'm letting you know time. Letting you know. But again, if you're unaware, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX. Please subscribe to ActionX on youtube.com/ActionXvideos. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it helps us get out there to other members of the Stargirls who have yet to discover us, helps us beat up that YouTube algorithm that hits me ever so much in life, and as well as sharing it for free here on the interwebs. Please ring that bell for notification when our next Stargirl review is live, which is each and every Wednesday mornings. And follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates for the channel. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.